Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, we're going to talk about Joe's big outing, and it's Nico time. It's ready to pass the torch, and Joe played great yesterday. I mean, his numbers were phenomenal, and it's really a good way for him to go out. And look, I know, he's not the greatest quarterback in the world, but he has shown improvement this year, and it was nice to see him go out like he did. And he's been a good team player. And I'm not going to sit here and rip on the guy for some of the bad games that he did have. He was a middle-of-the-road SEC quarterback, and we'll take a look at his stats and all that, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but it's definitely Nico time. And we're going to talk all about how this needs to shift to Nico now. And as we look at the numbers here, you can see Joe was 22 of 33 for 383 yards. That's his highest average of the year, 4 touchdowns. He also ran for 2 touchdowns, so he was responsible for 42 points in this game. I believe that's right. QB rating of 91, that's the highest he's ever had. Nico came in and threw for 75%. That guy looks good, man. That's with the second string. He's going to be just fine. Right here you can see Joe ran for 2 touchdowns, so he had the game of his life.
Did you see that?
Ramel Keaton had a nice game. Squirrel White just did everything. He did everything. I mean, nobody's more impressed with Squirrel White than I am. He just played a great season. Little guy, 165, 170 pounds out there just getting hammered. And he played every game, played great. He was our go-to guy, especially once Brew got hurt. We literally had to lean on a 165-pound dude. So when Squirrel shows up, the world knows. And that's how they do. On the other team, they just scream at Squirrel. But anyway, we got some other players that look pretty good. And I know, look, it's Vanderbilt, okay? I told you we have nothing to worry about with Vanderbilt. They're awful. But they're in the SEC, and they do have some talent. So it's not like you're just going to completely road grade them, but, you're going to road grade them. And as you can see here, Joe finished 7th in the SEC, right in the middle of the road out of 14 teams. So he was right smack dab in the middle. His completion rate wound up at almost 65%, which is better. He improved throughout the year. It started out at 61% and then worked its way back up to 65. He had 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, which is not terrible by any stretch. That's solid. And the ending that he had, look, those pro scouts are watching him. And I know some of you think he's not going to get drafted. I absolutely do think he's going to get drafted. They're going to see what he did in that game, and he needs to let that be the last thing they see. Was him throwing 4 touchdowns, running for 2 touchdowns, having a ball. Nobody had more fun in that game than Joe Milton. I mean, you see him do the triple somersault in the end zone after he scored that last touchdown. I mean, that guy was having a field day out there. But it's time for Nico, and I think Nico, when he's said and done, he's going to finish up in this area. He's going to be the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Now, it may not be next year. He may finish in, 5th or something like that, but he's going to be really good. And I know you're going to say, well, how do you know? How do you know? I'm basing it on some highly intelligent, well-skilled coaches out there that have been talking about this dude for about a year that I trust. And I've got my own set of eyeballs, and I can see it for myself when he's out there. He's smooth as silk. He's got escapability. He's got touch. He's got accuracy. He's got the height. He's quick for his size, too. And he's put on 20 pounds, so he's going to be just fine. The folks that are worried about, we just need to keep him uninjured. That's really the big thing. And we're working on that with the offensive line. Cooper Mays might come back. That would be huge. I feel confident that we can get him squared away with our NIL money. And let's just call it what it is. We just need to make sure he's squared away. And a few other players. I'm hearing some rumors that probably going to have to do something with Dylan Sampson, and I think they will. As long as he wants to stay, they'll make it work for him because he's a very good player. And some other players, but I'll tell you what, we're recruiting really well in the offensive line, and if we could pick up that 5-star Jordan Seaton, who has been predicted to come to us, that would be great because our recruiting is really looking good. We've already got 2 5-stars, a wide receiver and an edge rusher. We could use that 5-star tackle, man. That's one of the most important positions. Outside of quarterback, it's probably the most important position because you got to protect the quarterback. So I guarantee you they're going to throw an offer at Seaton to try to get him and load up that offensive line. And if we can keep several of these guys to play another year, that would be very helpful. It sounds like Peely's probably going to come back. That'll give us some real star power in that linebacker crew. Arian Carter, get him back healthy. He looked great this year as a true freshman. So we've got to keep building up that linebacker crew. It got decimated. Look, our defense got decimated, our offensive line, but so did every other school just about.
He ain't lying.
That's part of being in the SEC. You're going to have a lot of attrition. That's why you got to have that depth, and that's what we're building in this in these recruiting classes. You know, this is what really his second year. He's had 2 years to recruit. You can't count the first one because he came in with like 5 minutes left. And this will be his third year, and he is doing a great job with recruiting. He brought in a bunch of defensive players last year. We need to keep building up that defensive backfield because that is a major problem. It's better than it was, but it still kind of stinks. And when Haddon got put out of the game, when he went in there with that shoulder, that really changed our defense because he was our key cornerback. He's one of the best in the SEC. And losing him, our dog back there, hurt bad. So we've got to keep, we need some more defensive backs, some like stellar ones, and we're bringing in some good ones in this class, but you just got to develop them, and maybe need to hit the transfer portal again too. We'll see what some of these other guys do. So anyway, I did want to cover that. Look, I want to see Joe get ready for the combine. That's what he needs to do. Again, let this be the last thing those pros saw was a great game, then wear him out in the combine. Work on his speed. He's going to impress them, and there, you know, there'll be some coach or two that's going to fall in love with that arm and his ability to throw the ball. That he makes passes that really nobody else in college can make. Now, unfortunately, sometimes he makes passes that any college football player should make. But somebody's going to be impressed with him and draft him, and I think he'll have a decent NFL career. He may be a journeyman backup player. Let me tell you something. A journeyman backup quarterback is the best position in the NFL. It just is. It pays unbelievably well. You get to hold a clipboard and you put on a baseball cap and you make $3 or $4 million a year. And he could probably do that 7 or 8 or 10 years and occasionally go in and spell somebody, or who knows, maybe he winds up being a starting quarterback. Who knows? He should have a great future, honestly. And he's going to be just fine. So it looks like it's Nico time, and hopefully, like I say, Joe just went out with the best game of his life, honestly. And hopefully that's exactly what happens. We can get Nico ready for the bowl game. He'll have an entire month of practice getting all the first reps, and he can make that his first game rather than the first game next year, because I'd really like him to have this bowl game, because if he plays well, it builds his confidence. If he doesn't, he knows what to work on all off season, because until you get in there with the live reps, it's like playing golf. You can sit out there and hit all the great shots you want on the range and do all that crap. Until you get out in game competition in a live round, it doesn't really matter, because guess what? That's a different animal. It just is. When the pressure's on, lights are on, and it's all about you, he needs to get his feet wet with that, and it's better to do it in a bowl game, because then, like I say, the coaches can work on everything he does wrong in the bowl game, and when he starts next year, he'll be a much better quarterback, because he's a true freshman. Even though he's kind of a redshirt freshman, he's been there a year, he's put on 20 pounds, and very fleet-footed. Let's just see what he can do in the bowl game. Like I say, hopefully Joe steps aside, gets ready for the combine, and here we go. And I think the fan base would be super excited with that as well. And I will be doing another video later today. I'm going to be covering several important things. Michigan. I'm going to talk about South Carolina. That's right, Shane Beamer. I'm coming for you.
You tell him I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I hadn't forgot about you and your little buddy Connor Stallions, allegedly. We're gonna do some comparisons. And then also my buddy Billy Napier, and he talk about you a little bit and your Florida Gators. And at this time, I do want to thank today's sponsor, which is Eco Heating and Air. They have 3 locations, one in North City, which is right next to Knoxville. They service that entire area. Jamestown, Tennessee, and Dunlap, Tennessee. Now, these folks are big-time Vols fans, and they had been watching this channel, and they reached out to me, wanted to see about sponsoring, and we discussed it and worked it out, and worked out really well. And it's really important that you take care of your HVAC, your heating and air, because if you don't, look, it's getting ready to turn cold, and you know how bad it gets in the summertime, because if your unit goes out, it'll be 85 in your house in about 10 minutes, and nobody wants to deal with that. Well, guess what? In the wintertime, it does the opposite. It's getting ready to be under 30 degrees every night, so you better have your HVAC ready, that's for sure. The last thing you want is your unit to go out and then it's 10 or 15 degrees at night. So Eco, which is known for their really fast service, they have a maintenance special right now that includes 2 visits, a 21-point inspection, and a special UV cleaner that they'll that they'll add to your unit, the type they use in hospitals, and you'll get that for free as part of their maintenance agreement. So be sure to check out Eco Heating and Air. They have great ratings, whether you check out Google or Yelp or wherever, and they take really good care of their customers. I can tell you right now, several years ago, I didn't take care of my HVAC, had to replace the whole unit, and that was $8,000. And that was back then. What do you think it would cost now? So be sure you take care of your HVAC. Don't be like me and don't be like Aunt B.
Why didn't you call the man?
I should have called the man like you said.
That's right. Call the man. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover my Vols, the SEC, the Big Ten now some. I've been covering Michigan and Ohio State. Got to talk about Ohio State a little bit. And right over here, if you have not subscribed, just hit this little button to help you get my videos, because I'm going to stay on top of the Vols and this Michigan scandal and all that. And right over here's most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.